Hi, I'm Miss Grace, and for this video, we're going to be talking about a little folktale, and it's called The Ugly Duckling by Hans Christian Andersen. So I'm going to start it off with the duck. It was so beautiful in the country. It was the summertime. The wheat fields were golden, the oats were green, and the hay stood in great stacks in the green meadows. The stork paraded about among them on his long red legs, chattering away in Egyptian, the language he had learned from his lady mother. All around the meadows and cornfields grew thick woods, and in the midst of the forest was a deep lake. Yes, it was beautiful. It was delightful in the country. In a sunny spot stood a pleasant old farmhouse, circled about with deep canals, and from the walls down to the water's edge grew great burdocks, so high that under the tallest of them a little child might stand upright. The spot was as wild as it had been in the very center of the thick woods. In this snug retreat sat a duck upon her nest, watching for her young brood to hatch. But the pleasure she had felt at first was almost gone. She had begun to think it a wearisome task, for the little ones were so long coming out of their shells, and she seldom had visitors. The other ducks liked much better to swim about in the canals than to climb the slippery banks and sit under the burdock leaves to have a gossip with her. It was so long a time to stay so much by herself. At length, however, one shell cracked, and soon another, and from each came a living creature that lifted its head and cried, "Peep, peep." "Quack, quack," said the mother, and they all tried to say it too as well as they could, while they looked about them on every side at the tall green leaves. "What a great roll it is, to be sure," said the little ones, when they found how much more they had than when they were in the eggshell. "Is this all the world you imagine?" said Mother. "Wait till you have seen the garden. Far beyond that stretches down to the pastor's field. Though I have never ventured to such a distance, are you all out?" she continued, rising to look. "No, not all. The largest egg lies there yet, I declare. I wonder how long this business is to last. I'm really beginning to be tired of it." But for all that, she sat down again. "Well, and how are you today?" quacked an old duck who came to pay her a visit. Up next, we have more.
Hi guys, as you guys know, I'm Mr. Hector, and on today's video, I will be continuing part 2 of The Ugly Duckling. So, let's begin. "Whoa, and how are you today?" quacked an old duck who came to pay her a visit. "There's one egg that takes a deal of hatching. The shell is hard and will not break," said the fond mother, who sat still upon her nest. "But just to look at the others, have I not a pretty family? Are they not the prettiest little ducklings you ever saw? They are the image of their father, the good for naught. He never comes to see me." "Let me see the egg that will not break," said the old duck. "I've no doubt it's a Genoa fowl's egg. The same thing happened to me once, and a deal of trouble it gave me. For the young ones are afraid of water. I quack and cluck, but all not purpose. Let me take a look at it. Yes, I'm right. It's a genuine fowl, upon my word. So take my advice and leave it where it is. Come to the water and teach the other children to swim." "I think I will sit a little while longer," said the mother. "I have sat so long, a day or two won't matter." "Very well, please yourself," said the old duck, rising, and she went away. At last, the great egg broke, and the littlest bird cried, "Peep, peep," as he crept from the shell. How big and ugly he was! The mother duck stared at him and did not know what to think. "Really," she said, "this is an enormous duckling, and it is not at all like any of the others. I wonder if he will turn out to be a genuine fowl. Well, we shall see when we get to the water. For into the water he must go, even if I have to push him in myself." On the next day, the weather was delightful. The sun shone brightly on the green burdock leaves, and the mother duck took her family down to the water and jumped in with a splash. "Quack, quack," cried she, and one after another, the little ducklings jumped in. Well, guys, this was the end of part 2 of The Ugly Duckling. Another staff will do part 3. I hope you guys enjoyed.
Hey guys, this is Mr. Oscar from Mendoza Elementary School, and now I'm going to be reading you a part of The Ugly Duckling. So here is the part that I have to read. So, The water closed over their heads, but they came up again in an instant, swam about quite prettily with their legs paddling under them as easily as possible. Their legs went off their own accord. The ugly gray coat was also in the water, swimming with them. "Oh," said the mother, "that is not a guinea fowl. See how well he uses his legs, how to erect he holds himself. He is my own child, and he is not so very ugly after all. If you look at him properly, quack, quack, come with me now. I will take you into a grand society and introduce you to the farmyard. But you must keep close to me, or you may be trod upon. And all above, beware of the cat." When they reached the farmyard, there was a wretched riot going on. Two families were fighting on an eel's head, which, after all, was carried off by the cat. "See, children, that is why the world, that is the way of the world," said the mother duck, reading her beak, for she would have liked the eel's head herself. "Come on now, use your legs. Let's see how well you can behave. You must bow your head prettily to that old duck yonder. She's the highest born of them all, and has Spanish blood. Therefore she is well off. Don't you see she has a red rag tied to her leg, which is something very grand and great honor for a duck. It shows that everyone is anxious not to lose her, and that she is to be noticed by both man and beast. Come now, turn in your toes, and well-bred duckling, who's fat apart just like his father and mother, says quack."
Hi guys, this is Miss Leslie and I'll be continuing on the story. "And therefore, not of so much consequence, I think he'll grow up strong and able to take care of himself. The other ducklings are graceful enough," said the old duck. "Now make yourself at home, and if you find else head, you can bring it to me." And so they made themselves comfortable. But the poor duckling who had crept out of his shell last of all looked so ugly, was beaten and pushed and made fun of, not only by the ducks, but by the old palm tree. "He is too big," they all said, and the turkey, who had been born into the world with spurs, and fancied himself really an emperor, puffed himself out like a vessel, in full sail, and flew at the duckling. He became quite red in the head with passion, so the poor little thing did not know where to go, and was quite miserable, because he was so ugly and laughed at by the whole farmyard. So it went from day to day. It got worse and worse. The poor duckling was driven about by everyone. Even his brothers and sisters were unkind to him, and would say, "Ah, you ugly creature, I wish a cat would get you." And his mother had been heard to say she wished he had never been born. The ducks fed him, the chickens feed him, and the girl who fed the palm tree pushed him with her feet. So at last he ran away, frightened, little birds in the hedges as he flew over the palings. "They're afraid of me because I'm so ugly," he said. So he flew still farther until he came out on a large moor, inhabited by wild ducks. Here he remained the whole night, feeling very sorrowful. In the morning, when the wild ducks rose in air, they started at their new comrade. "What sort of duck are you?" they all said, coming around him. He bowed to them and was polite as he could be. He did not reply to their question. Now Miss Cece is going to continue on the story.
Hi guys, this is Miss Cece and I will be continuing the story of the ugly duckling. So, where did we leave off? Oh, right here.
"You are exceedingly ugly," said the wild ducks, "but that will not matter if you do not want to marry one of our family." Poor thing, he had no thoughts of marriage. All he wanted was permission to lie among the rushes and drink some water on the moor. After he had been on the moor 2 days, there came 2 wild geese, or rather goslings, for they had not been out of the egg long, which accounts for their impertinence. "Listen, friend," said one of them to the ducklings, "you're so ugly that we like you very well. Will you go with us and become a bird of passage?" Not far from here is another moor, in which there are some wild geese, all of them unmarried. It is a chance for you to get a wife. You may make your fortune ugly as you are. Bang, bang sounded in the air, and 2 of the wild geese fell dead among the rushes, and the water was tinged with blood. Bang, bang echoed far and wide. In the distance, a whole flock of wild geese rose up from the rushes. The sound continued from every direction, for the sportsmen surrounded the moor, and some were even seated on branches of trees overlooking the rushes. The blue smoke from the guns rose the clouds over the dark trees, and as it floated across the water, a number of sporting dogs bounded in among the rushes, which bent beneath them wherever they went. How terrified the poor duckling! He turned away his head to hide it under his wing, and at the same moment a large, terrible dog passed quite near him. His jaws were open, his tongue hung from his mouth, his eyes glared fearfully. He thrust his nose close to the duckling, showing his sharp teeth, and then, splash, splash, he went into the water without touching him. "Oh," sighed the duckling, "oh, how thankful I am for being so ugly. Even a dog will not bite me." And so he lay quite still, while the shot rattled through the rushes, and gun after gun was fired over him. It was late in the day before all became quiet, but even then the poor young thing did not dare move. He waited quietly for several hours, and then, after looking carefully around him, hastened away from the moor as fast as he could. He ran over field and meadow till the storm arose, and he could hardly struggle against it.
All right, this is where I stop reading, and Miss Gabby will continue next.
Hi everyone, this is Miss Gabby. Welcome back to another video. I'm going to continue the story of the ugly duckling. I'm going to continue reading where Miss Cece stopped. So hopefully you guys stay and hear the last part of the story. It says, he waited quietly for several hours, and then, after looking carefully around him, hastened away from the moor as fast as he could. He ran over field and meadow till a storm arose, and he could hardly struggle against it. Towards evening, he reached a poor little cottage that seemed ready to fall, and only seemed to remain standing because it could not decide on which side to fall first. The storm continued so violent that the duckling could not go further. He sat down by the cottage, and then he noticed that the door was not quite closed, in consequence of one of the hinges having given away. There was, therefore, a narrow opening near the bottom, large enough for him to slip through, which he did very quietly and got a shelter for the night. Here in the cottage lived a woman, a cat, and a hen. The cat, whom his mistress called my little son, was a great favorite. He could raise his back and purr, and he could even throw out sparks from his fur if it were stroked the wrong way. The hen had very short legs, so she was called Chicky Short Legs. She laid good eggs, and her mistress loved her as if she had been her own child. In the morning, the strange visitor was discovered. The cat began to purr, and the hen to cluck. "What is that noise about?" said the old woman, looking around the room. But her sight was not very good. Therefore, when she saw the duckling, she thought it must be a fat duck that had strayed from home. "Oh, what a prize!" she exclaimed. "I hope it's not a drake, for then I shall have some ducks' eggs. I must wait and see." So the duckling was allowed to remain on trial for 3 weeks, but there were no eggs. "I will fly to these royal birds," he exclaimed, "and they will kill me because, ugly as I am, I dare to approach them. But it does not matter. Better be killed by them than pecked by the ducks, beaten by the hens, pushed about by the maiden who feeds the poultry, or starved with hunger in the winter." Then he flew to the water and swam towards the beautiful swans. The moment they espied the strange, they rushed to meet him with outstretched wings. "Kill me," said the poor bird, and he bent his head down to the surface of the water and awaited death. But what did he see in the clear stream below? His own image, no longer a dark gray bird, ugly and disagreeable to look at, but a graceful and beautiful swan.
To be born in a duck's nest in a farmyard is of no consequence to a bird if it is hatched from a swan's egg. He now felt glad at having suffered sorrow and trouble, because it enabled him to enjoy so much better all the pleasure and happiness around him. For the great swans swam around the newcomer and stroked his neck with their beaks as a welcome. Into the garden presently came some little children and threw bread and cake into the water. "See," cried the youngest, "there is a new one." And the rest were delighted and ran to their father and mother, dancing and clapping their hands and shouting joyously, "There is another swan! Come, a new one has arrived!" Then they threw more bread and cake into the water and said, "The new one is the most beautiful of all. He is so young and pretty." And the old swans bowed their heads before him. Then he felt quite ashamed, hid his head under his wing, for he did not know what to do. He was so happy, yet he was not at all proud. He had been persecuted and despised for his ugliness, and now he heard them say he was the most beautiful of all birds. Even the elder tree bent down its boughs into the water before him, and the sun shone warm and bright. Then he rustled his feathers, curved his slender neck, and cried joyfully from the depths of his heart, "I never dreamed of such happiness as this while I was despised, ugly duckling." And that would be the end of the story, guys. I hope you guys were able to listen to every single part. I hope you guys enjoyed, and thank you for watching one more of our videos. Bye!